Hello and welcome to part 2 of making a VR dungeon crawler. So in the last video we looked at making our level and making our animated skeletons that would respond depending on how far you were away from them. Okay, so now when we design a level, obviously it's a little bit tricky when we can't actually see what's kind of going on. We can do a quick fix for this. If I go into my code for this program, not that one, into our level builder, I've got this line here, execute in edit mode. That basically means we don't have to press play for the code to run. So if I just take this out, press save, jump back into Unity, and we should see our level appear in front of us, even though the game is not running. Now the reason I didn't do this before is because once it spawns into existence, it is right there. Even if I go and change our level itself to something else, these wall blocks will still be here. So you have to go and manually delete them and take that line of code out, so it becomes a faff. But since we're only doing, well, I'm only doing this one level for the moment, I'm going to keep this running in edit mode so I can see the whole level. Makes it easy to move skeletons around and put them in different places, because in this one we're going to make it so we can attack the skeletons, they can attack us with some health and some damage, have a simple UI, and maybe have some collectible objects that we can sort of clear the level once we've collected everything, which would then take us to level 2. Okay, so first bit, I've already made a little wand in Blender. Did this a few years ago for a different game. It's just a cylinder that I've just extruded a few times. So I've already dragged that in, which I've put under my models folder. Wand, there it is. Hopefully that's going to come across okay. I'm going to zoom right in onto my right hand. Now I'm right-handed, which is why I'm doing this. Obviously if you're left-handed, please feel free to put on left hand. If we want to take into account accessibility, maybe we could have options for that, so you could choose which hand it wants to go to. But just for the sake of keeping this simple, I'm just going to drag this onto my right hand anchor. So there it is. It's now stuck to my one hand, and it's pointing the way that it's going to fire. And that's the reason I've done this, because if you just use the controller, it doesn't always come out the angle you're expecting. So what I'm also going to do is add an empty. Now that's got the camera and lamp from Blender. Don't want those, so I'm just going to turn them off. I could delete them. Will it let me delete? Let's have a quick look. Delete. Yep, okay, that's fine. Sometimes it doesn't let you do that. So now I've got my wand. I'm going to add an empty to the wand. So empty, and this is going to be where our fireball can come from. So I'm going to do a really bad fireball. So fire emitter, and I'm going to move that along to the tip of the wand. So that is where, when we press our trigger, it's going to come out of that point just there. So let's have a quick test to see if that's actually visible. Just make sure that it is parenting properly. Okay, so it seems, there we go. So we can see it's coming out of our controller. I could hide the controller now, which I probably will do. Obviously I'm pressing fire, nothing's happening just yet. So let's add some code for that. Okay, so on our code now, I'd prefer to create something up here for putting the code onto, because it makes it easier than going through all this hierarchy. But just to create things a bit simpler, I'm going to add a script. I've made this hard for myself. There we go, new script, and I'm going to call this sort of fireball. Again, feel free to call yours whatever you like. So now I've got a fireball script. I'm going to double click and open this. So our fireball is basically going to be like a cannonball with a fire texture on, so nothing particularly clever or fancy. But it's going to be a rigid body fireball, so it's got some physics to it. So when it hits the skeleton, it has something to do. So I've got a public rigid body fireball, and my initial speed is going to be 50. This again is come from trial and error. I'm also going to have a variable called fire state. I've always done this if I've got any kind of game with guns. Is it currently not firing? Is it firing? Is it in the process of hitting? So well, in this case it's just a boolean, so is it firing or is it not? And of course at the beginning I'm just going to say fire state equals false. Now just like, I think we've done this already. I'm not sure, I've forgotten already what we've done previously. I'm going to bring a function into our update. So this is our OVR, so Oculus VR input, .get down. So if I press the button 1, I think I've got this somewhere, there we go. So our button 1 to test this is our A button. This is just for checking. I'm not sure if I'm going to want to use that and I'm just going to trigger this fire function. Fire function does not yet exist, so I'm going to create this a little bit further down. So I'm outside of the update, but I'm still inside the class. So do make sure you put this in the correct place. So I've got a function called fire. I've got a shoot sound, which obviously we're not working with just yet, but I'm going to bring that in a little while. So I'm going to rigid body clone. So it's going to clone whatever this fireball is up here. It's going to instantiate it, instantiate that fireball in the current position of wherever this fireball script is attached to. So in which case it's our fire emitter. It's also going to use the rotation of our wand, and it's going to clone it as a rigid body. I'm going to set the velocity to whatever our current speed is. So the Z axis is the way it's facing, so that's that 15 because it's public. If it's too fast or too slow, just change the number back in Unity itself, not in the code. It saves you recompiling. And then I'm going to give it 5 seconds before it actually destroys itself anyway. Again, you could change this, make it longer, make it shorter, make it only destroy on the first thing it hits. This is down to you to play with, but I'm just trying to keep these things as simple as possible. Now this is just me doing the test to make sure that the spacebar kind of works. So if you press the button 1 or spacebar, it should fire. So let's go and have a quick look. Oops, that's not what I need. That's in the background for when I do deploy it to the quest to make sure it works. Okay, still compiling. So really I shouldn't have to actually put the headset on to test this. Now what I'm not doing is say there's no rigid body attached. So I need to create a sphere. This is why I don't like having the walls. It's got all these wall things there now, which makes it a bit longer. So I'm just going to come up here. Where am I going to go? I'm trying to click in a bit of space where I'm not actually there. Right, I'll go on components instead. Create an object, create 3D object, create a sphere. There's our sphere. This is going to be our fireball. I want the fireball to not be that big, so I'm just going to say 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. I think that's still probably way too big. In fact, if I just press that, I don't have to adjust all of them now. So 0.2, 0.15. This can be a bit of a trial and error thing, obviously. That'll do for now. I'm going to... Where am I going to go to? I've already dragged this across. No, I've not. I've already grabbed a texture from elsewhere, which I think I have. I pinched this off the internet earlier. So I'm going to drag this fireball texture on. No, it's not. It's not working because it's a GIF file. Oh dear. Okay, we'll just make this red for now, shall we? If I just create a new material, I'll get a better texture in a little while. New material. Let's just change this to red for a little fireball. Drag the fireball on. I'm just going to call that red map. So we can always change that later on by updating it with the texture image. And I'll use Photoshop to mess about. So now I've got the fireball. If I now drag my fireball down here, this becomes a prefab. And I can just delete... Oh, I've forgotten one bit. This needs to have a rigid body. I also want to tag this. So I'm going to tag this again as fireball. Because in the code we're going to use this tag to know if this is what's hit the skeleton or not. So if I click back on my fireball, it's now got a rigid body, it's got a collider. I'm going to say tagged fireball, so it's now named. I can drag this down again over the original. So now we've got a prefab ready to go, and I should be able to just delete that. Click back on my wand, click back on our fire emitter, and now I can drag the fireball onto our rigid body. There we go. So now whenever I press the trigger, it should fire. So let's just have a quick test. I'm not going to put the headset on for this. I'm just going to press spacebar, because I think that's what my code said. Yep, spacebar. There we go. Oh, we can see that it's actually hitting these skeletons from its standing still point. So we do know it's now firing. It's firing quite a few balls. It's going fairly fast. Okay, that'll do nicely. So now what do we need to do? We've got some fireballs shooting. We saw it hit the skeleton. We could change the density of the... Not the density. We can change the mass of the rigid body if we wanted to, because right now it's set to mass 1, so it throws the skeleton back a little bit. We could play with that number to see how much impact it has. But for now, what I'm going to do is go into our skeleton code. There's our skeleton controller. And what I'm going to do is add some health to our skeleton. So if I go public, again, I'm only doing public so we can change the variable in Unity itself. Public int health equals 3, so it's going to have 3 hit points. And I'm going to come down here and start adding a little bit of extra code. Okay, so I'm back into Visual Studio, obviously, and now what I'm going to do is we've already got this code that dealt with the distance. Having played it a little bit, I think these numbers are a little too generous. I think I want to make these numbers a bit bigger. But for now, I'm just going to come down here. I'm outside of my update function. If you're not sure, you can always scroll up and you can see the pair. So outside of my update function, I want a on collision enter. Because I'm in Visual Studio, it does autofill for me, which is quite nice. And I'm just going to say if collision dot game object dot tag, and this is why I named it equals fireball. Now, did I do it with capitals? What I'm going to just do is go and check. It's really easy to make little mistakes on this. I'm just going to pop back over, click on my fireball. Yep, I did do it with capital F and capital B, so maybe not the best notation there. And I'm just going to say health minus minus. So it's going to take 1 away from the health. And of course, if it hits 0, so if health is less than or equal to 0, I always do, even though I could just say if it equals 0, just in case there was a glitch and it like double tapped it or something, and it jumped from being 1 to -1, you could, just by some glitch, you could overstep the actual checking boundary. So I always say less than or equal to 0 just in case of that. I can now say state equals 3. And then I can say destroy this game object. So it's going to destroy the skeleton. So that's this skeleton I'm going to destroy in 2 seconds time. I'm hoping that's enough time to play our dying 1 animation. What I should really go do is time it, and then maybe have a in dead body position for a few seconds where it would slowly fade or disappear into the ground. But again, I'm trying to keep the code as simple as possible. So I've got this on collision enter. So if it's the fireball, take 1 away from health, go to play dying animation, and again I should really do this as a random number. So like choose between 3 and 4. If it's 3, play that one. If it's 4, play that. Make it random. But again, trying to keep the code really simple. So there we go. I've now got a collision detection thing. So I'm going to press save on that. We're going to go back into Unity, and I think we're going to give it a whirl and see if it is in fact destroying the skeletons. Obviously I'm still invulnerable, so I can't be hurt by the skeletons. It's going to have a little play. Okay, so let's have a quick fire from the air. Nope, that's not working. There we go. Because I've used the A button. In a moment we'll make it use the trigger instead. So I'm just going to walk a bit towards them and just shoot away. I keep forgetting which button it is. So we can see it's having far too much impact, which is a bit of a problem. Oh, we disappeared far too quick. Okay, so we did kill them. They are gone. I don't know why I didn't play the animation. So we're going to go back to the code and have a quick check. Let's have a look at this. So fireball, health minus minus. If it's less than 0, state equals 3. Right, I figured it out. It's a quick glance really. I'm saying state equals 3, but when we come back up to our update function, we're using the distance to recorrect the state, which of course for most instances is it saying if it's greater than 5, then go back to 0, which of course is our idle. Well, that's no good. So what I really need, I think, is a way of checking, is it already dead? So what I'm going to just say is put another if statement in. And this is one of those like logical errors. There's nothing wrong with the syntax, just simply a logical error. I'm going to say if state is at this place not equal to 3. If it's not equal to 3, then I can do these things. Can I do that one? In fact, I don't need to do that. I can actually just say if state is greater than or equal to 3. Nope. Less than. There we go. Because we're only doing 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. So if I do want to put some other animations in, like different dying animations, then they'll still work. So as long as state is less than 3, we can do these things. So let's just press save on that. I mean, these are common problems when you're coding, and sometimes if you're new, it can really get you down to not having a clue how to fix it. You've just got to think step by step what's happening. Obviously I hadn't thought step by step of what's happening just then. Let's go and give it another go. Okay, so if I'm firing, let's just target that one. There we go. So it's falling over dead, and oh, disappeared a bit too quick, but we know it's kind of working. There we go. Another one's going. So they just die a bit too fast. So let's go and change that time. So pop back into the code, come back down here. I'm going to say, let's give him 2.5 seconds. I'm not giving him 3 just because I know the animation isn't that long, and it'll just go back to the idle, I think. In fact, now I've put that in, it probably won't. Interesting. We'll go and try it out. In fact, I'll try it in a little while. Okay, so that's us attacking. I think the fireball is having far too much impact, so I am going to just click again. I'm editing the prefab itself, so if I just go on to our rigid body, change it down to 0.2, I think this might have less, so it hits them with less force. It'll still damage the health, but again, these are things that you might need just to play about with and experiment with. Let's try it again. There we go. They're barely moving now, and okay, I think he could do 3 seconds. But you can see the fireball didn't have as much impact this time. Well, we could take it off course like a pool ball. That could be a fun kind of part of the game. Okay, so what's our next thing? Yeah, go on. I will quickly change that to 3 seconds, and then we'll leave it at that for now. And again, it's something you can play about with depending on your animations. So that's the skeletons dying. Obviously what we now need is if they're attacking you, so if they're playing a strike and they come into contact with you, we need to give you damage. And now this is not something I've practiced with, so I just have to sort of see if I can work it out as we go along. So we've got our player, which is our OVR player controller, our OVR rig. Have we got a collision box on here? So I was thinking about adding a collision detection box, but it occurred to me I don't need to because the skeleton knows where you are. We're using this distance function, and we've just said that if the distance is less than 2, then state 2, which of course is attack. So at this point, if he's got that close to you and he can attack, then you're going to get some damage. So what I need to really do is just create some code, a health for the actual you, the player. Now obviously each skeleton has his own code, so I can't put your health here because that would mean you get 4 lots of health depending on how many skeletons are attacking you. So if I just come back into our camera rig, into our OVR player controller, right, what I'm going to do is just create another empty. So game object, create empty. This is going to be our game controller. I never lift my finger fast enough off the shift key. And on here we're going to add another script. This is going to be our game controller. So let's open this up. And in this one I'm going to create a variable that will keep track of your health. I mean any of your statistics, like how many coins have you collected, what time is it on, etc. So if I just go static, I'll explain that in a moment. Static public health equals, I don't know, how many health points do you think you should have? Let's just try 5 for now. Public, oops, I forgot to say which variable, which data type it is. Okay, I know I could just use var, but I'm old school and I still like to tell the computer what data type I want. So static just means that even if this script is no longer in use, this variable will still be in memory. This is really good if you go to a game over screen, because on your game over you might want your high scoreboard, but this game control will no longer be running. So it keeps this score, or whatever it is you've got, over into the game over scene where you can then use that data to sort of, tot it up and stick it on a high scoreboard. Okay, so I've got int health 5. So if I just press save, I'm going to go back into my skeleton control. And I'm just going to say that if it's playing, if it's attacking, then I can now say game controller dot health minus minus. Now the downside to this is going to run as fast as possible. So we only want this to happen just once. So I'm going to have another variable, and again I'm just thinking about this on my feet, so it might not be the best way of doing it. In skeleton, yep, I'm just going to put boolean attack, bool attack equals false. So at this point I'm just going to say when it's attacking, I'm just going to say if that attack equals false, then I'm going to do that. I'm going to take 1 away from your health, and I'm also going to then say attack equals true. Now, of course, that also means that once you're further away and you're not being attacked, we then need to sort of set that back to false, otherwise you can have 1 attack and that's it. It's never going to be able to do any more damage to you again. So at this point, just wondering where to put that. Okay, I think a good place to just try it is just up here and just say if again, this is not very efficient. I'm sure if I think about it for a bit longer, I'll come with a better idea. If state is not equal to 2, which is the attack, so it means if something's changed, this is where I can say attack equals false. Now, the reason why I say it's not very efficient is because it means it's going to be doing this if statement every single frame, which I shouldn't really do. I should just change it on one of these, so when it stops attacking and goes to something else, then change it back. But for now, I am just going to leave it there. I mean, I could put it inside these. No, I'm just going to leave it there for now. Let's just see if it works. It should work. Okay, now the trouble at the moment is we can't see your health. So this is where we can add a little bit of UI. So I'm going to jump back into Unity. Hope that's going to work. I'm going to add a canvas. This is the reason why I didn't like doing this, because I've now got all these walls to deal with. So if I just go on Game Object, we've gone UI, Canvas. Canvas is currently in screen space. We don't want that one in world space. What camera am I using? I'm using the camera from our OVR player. So if I drag our OVR camera rig, no I don't, I want centerize. Centerize actually the camera. So that's where it's coming from. I'm going to scale this right down, because right now our canvas is massive. Our canvas is sort of taking up a lot of the screen, so I'm going to shrink this right down. In fact, yeah, to make it easier to see, I'm just going to put a UI panel, so we can now see. We can now see it's a bit of gray, so we can see where the edge of the panel is. We can always remove that in a little while. I'm now going to add a text box, so UI text mesh. Now, if you do that for the first time, it will come saying, do you want to import TM Pro? Say yes. You don't need to do the samples though. So I've now got this text. This is where our VR UI is going to go. I'm going to replace that writing in a little while. I'm going to move it up to the top, move it across here. But now I'm going to scale this right down. So I'm going to try scaling down to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. I should have just locked this. I'm going to move it to 0 coordinates. Zoom down there a bit. Okay, that's still quite large. Let's just try it again. Let's just try 0.01. Let's move that over a bit. Okay, that'll do. Can we go over this canvas and make it a bit smaller? So yeah, sometimes the canvas can be a bit fiddly. In VR, it's better to attach it to something that's in game. They're a bit more tricky to see and faff with. But anyway, let's have a quick look. This is just so we can see what's going on in game itself, like attaching to your wrist or something. Let's move that up a little bit. Okay, so where's my text gone? Yeah, these are never... Alright, I see, we're inside the brick, that's the problem. Wow, okay. So let's move this canvas right over. There we go. Maybe we need to shrink it down a little bit more still. Like I said, you can spend a long time faffing with UIs and getting them just right. Like I said, UI games, in VR games, tend not to play with them too much. Okay, and we'll probably stop in a minute. It's something you just need to spend 10 minutes doing whatever makes you happy, really. I'm going to turn the panel off, because I don't think I do want the panel. I want to see that there. I'm going to click on the text. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to make it green. I'm going to put a little border around it. So if I come down here to where it says extra settings, I can put... Oh, where's it gone? Is it hiding from me? There we go. I wanted that one. Where I can just give me an outline, make it one big. Oh no, that's not what I want. That'll do. Okay, so I've got a text box. I know that was a bit of faffing, but I've got a bit of a text box so I can see some score. Hopefully it'll not look too bad in the VR itself. So now, inside our game controller, I'm going to come up here. Nope, that's the wrong one. Inside this one, I'm going to say using TM Pro. I'm now going to come down here and just say public, don't need to be static this one, public tmp underscore text, and that gives us a link to the text box, which I'm just going to call HUD for our head-up display, whatever you want to call it, UI, your choice. I can just say HUD.text equals, you know, VR dungeon, so that's what will come on screen first of all, really. But I suppose in this bit I can now put our health by just saying HUD.txt. So really what I've just said done there is pointless, because it's going to come on screen for a millisecond, then it'll be replaced by this. Equals, I can put health, oops, plus health dot to string. Now you can put how many decimal places you want it to go to. I don't need decimal places, so I'm just going to leave that blank, and that'll convert it to a string, put it into the text box, which we'll now be able to see, I hope. So let's just go have a quick look, press play, see what happens once it compiles. Okay, so I forgot to do two things. One is the canvas is still there. Really, I need to parent this canvas to the actual OVR rig. So I'm just going to drag this up. This was such a bad idea because it's going to be tricky to do and take a while. Is there any way I can do this a bit faster? Again, this is why I shouldn't have done the wall clones. I shall probably fast forward this a little bit. Okay, what I've just done is deleted the canvas because it was going to take far too long to drag it all the way up. So I'm just going to so what I've done is I'm right clicking on left hand anchor. I'm going to just go very quickly canvas. I'm going to flick that over to the whole world space thing again. I'm going to drag the the center eye rig over. I'm now going to shrink that canvas down like we did before. So again, I'll just lock that. What was it, 0.01? Move that to that. Is that where it needs to be then? That's not where I was expecting to see it. That should have been on the controller. Okay, so let's have a look. If I go a bit, so now I'm going to have to get the other control now, won't I? Okay, so there's our health. Oops, where have I just gone to? There we go. So I've got my health points 5, and let's see whether they go down when he strikes me. There we go. There's 1. Okay, so it's not stopping now. So if he moves away, I think that'll work. Yeah, there we go. So obviously he doesn't get more than 1 striking. So there's still obviously a bit of a glitch in the logical problems, but I'm not sure I'm going to fix that on today's session. But there we go, we have health going down, -4. So obviously we need some kind of game over. I think we might have to leave that for another chance. Okay, so I think we'll put the code there as a placeholder. So we're in the game controller, we've got the health, and what we can now just sort of do is an if statement. If health just like with the skeleton, if health is less than or equal to 0, or should we be generous with us and say just less than 0, so we've got to go past it, then we need to go to sort of the game over. Now we don't have a game over setting right now. What we could do is, we could sort of choose, do we want to just reset this level? Do we want to go to a game over scene? But we don't have a game over scene to go to just yet, so I'll sort of have to leave that for the moment. It's not difficult, by the way. Okay, so the only reason I did want to put the walls in was so we could do something like this. We've got the skeleton 1. We can now physically move them into a different part of the actual game, so we could sort of position them slightly more sensibly. Put them into different parts. Control D to duplicate, Control D to duplicate. We could put them all over the kind of the level. Yeah, that'll do for them. We'll have one more. I'm going to put that one down here. Oops, not sure what I've just moved there, so I'm going to press undo. Certainly weren't the skeleton. Okay, so there we go. I've got some skeletons sort of all over the place now, all that can attack you. What I want to do is also put some coins in that we could collect. Now I could jump into Blender and make a nice coin, or I could just cheat and just very quickly go game object, create 3D object, cylinder. There's a cylinder. Let's zoom in on that. Oh, wrong button and the wrong program. Cylinder. Is that where it went to? Let's press undo a couple more times. Something went a bit wrong. Let's just try again. So it's just game object, 3D object, cylinder. There we go. I'm just pressing F to zoom in on it. That's better. I'm just going to shrink this down to about coin size. Let's rotate it upright. That'll do. I'm going to, for the sake of speed, I'm just going to leave it white, so even though that's going to pain me greatly. Let's just move this around a bit. Let's bring that down to ground height. About there, that's massive, isn't it? Let's shrink it down a little bit more. Let's tag this coin. No, I can't do it. I'm just going to duplicate this red material. I think this will work. In fact, no, okay, I'll just create a new material. New material. I'll call it yellow. Oh, I spelled yellow wrong. Okay, put that onto yellow. There we go. We've got a coin now. Not a great coin, but it is a coin nonetheless. So what I'm going to do is just like with other sort of coins, and I'm just going to rename that there coin. Add component. I'm going to add a rigid body, but I'm going to make it kinematic, and I'm also going to put the capsule as a trigger, so that it's not going to have anything solid, but it will let us interact with it. So it's not going to fall through the ground. It's not going to have gravity affect it. And what I want to do is, once I've made the code for this, just making that a bit neater. So again, we go to script. Call this coin. We're just going to make it sort of pick upable. Okay, so where's my coin script gone? So here we are. So I'm just going to go on, trigger, enter. Now I don't want the skeletons picking the coins up, so I need to know it's the player that's picked the coins up. So I've got to go back into Unity. I've got to find our player. So I am going to have to add some collision boxes to him. So there's our OVR player, our OVR camera rig. I'm just checking, make sure there's nothing already there. No, it's fine. Let's add component. Let's add a box collider. Let's add a rigid body. And again, we're just going to have that, I believe, as... Will that work? I'm going to have to play about this to make sure it works. Sometimes it messes these things up a little bit. So I've got box collider. Let's just zoom in on that. Our box collider is looking extremely small. Let's have a little look. Oh no, that's fine. That'll do. That'll do nicely. That just lets us sort of change the size of it a little bit. Okay, so that's it. Now I've got that. I can tag us to be the player. Back into our code. And I can just say if, so it's pretty much like the fireball, but this time it's a on trigger rather than on collision. If other.gameObject.tag equals player, then we want to give some points to our game controller, or take one away, or whatever it's going to be. So I'm just going to sort of say destroy because again we want to destroy the coin when we collect it. So destroy game object, we'll just do it immediately. Back in game controller, I'm going to say number of coins, so I'm going to go int number of coins. Oops. Number of coins inside our start. I want to know how many coins have we got, so I'm just going to go num of coins equals game object dot find objects with tag, so it's important that it is the plural one. Open brackets, and I want to find all the things with the tag coin dot length, and that's going to tell me exactly how many coins we've got in our scene. Right now it's 1, and therefore if I say, just like before, static public save back into coin, I can now just say game controller dot number of coins minus minus. So that's going to say how many coins is left in scene, because what I'm going to want to do is in the update function, again, if we've collected all the coins, game's over, we've won. So I can sort of say if number of coins equals, again I'm going to do the same thing, less than or equal to 0, then also game over, oops, forgot to put a comment in, game over, like you've won. Okay, so we'll have to just do a game over scene in a moment. Okay, so what's our next little bit? So I think the next bit is actually to change our HUD. So we've got text equals health, but what I actually want to do now is I'm just going to remove that semicolon, and I'm just going to sort of go plus slash n for a new line. So this is going to be one continuous instruction. So the text equal to health plus the health dot to string plus that, which is going to be our coins, and I can say plus num of coins dot to string again. And that's me ending this line now. So that should tell us how much health have you got, how many coins have you got, and obviously we'll do a game over maybe in a little while. Press save. This should give us a bit of a game. Let's have a quick flick back into Unity. See if it all compiles. Make sure I've not made a mistake. So again, I'm going to press play. I'm not going to worry about putting the VR headset on for the moment, I hope. Okay, so there we go. Look down, we can see we've got health 5, coins 1. Let's walk over and see where this coin disappears. There we go, coins none. So we've collected that one coin. So obviously if we'd written the code in, we'd have the game over. So let's look at that. Okay, I think before we go much further, let's look at the coin. So there's the coin. So I'm just going to Control D to duplicate. Let's move a few of these around. Obviously, if you want to play your own game and have a bit of fun with it, then create a little script that would sort of randomly spawn these things, and sort of, you know, so you don't know where they're going to be. You know, make sure that your skeletons can chase you from further away, because right now they are going to be simple to walk past and run away from. But we've sort of getting there with kind of a thing. So how many coins have I now got? Well, 11 plus the original coin. So that's probably enough for the moment. That would certainly give you something to look around for. Okay, so there's something I actually forgot about earlier because I was so busy trying to get through this quickly. Is actually our firing mechanism. I keep pressing the trigger and missing the A button. We don't really need the A button. It's not intuitive. So on our fireball controller, fire, I'm just going to put a bit of extra code in. I've already written it from a previous program, and this is, I'll show you. I'll copy the whole thing across. So I've got if trigger right is greater than 0.89. I've not actually declared that variable, so let's go and declare that. I've missed a little bit out. So trigger right was just my way of looking at the right hand trigger. Again, I'm right hand, which is why I'm doing it. You can obviously call it trigger left, but it's obviously going to get the right index trigger. You'd have to sort of set one up for right hand and left hand and decide which one you're using, but for now I'm going to keep it as this. So I've got trigger right. If the trigger right is getting the how much have you squeezed the trigger, that is almost closed. I just found if you did it as 1, it just doesn't always work. So I'm saying if trigger right is greater than 0.89 and you've currently not fired. That was the reason why I had that variable up there. So you've not fired yet. So when you squeeze it, it's almost there. It will set it to fire state equals true. This was just telling our debug window that we have pressed fire, and it runs the same fire function. If fire state equals true, so you've squeezed the trigger, but now it's less than 1, this knows you have released the trigger. So that's going to now work on the trigger itself, and it sets the fire state back to false. So if you were to get rid of most of that, it means if you squeeze the trigger, it would just fire an endless amount of fireballs, whereas this is making sure you can only do like a one shot. That's the other reason I created the fire function, so that I could call it from 2 different functions there. It reduces code. So if I just press save on that, game controller. Now I do want to go to something with game over, so I'm going to come up here. I'm going to create a new library, insert a new library, which is using Unity Engine, I think it's Unity Engine, .scene management, and that's going to let us access levels. So what I want to do is load our levels. So this could be our scene manager. Where's it gone to? Okay, word. There we go. Scene manager .load scene. Open brackets, and this is where we need to name the scene we're going to load. So in my case, it's going to be game over. I'm just going to copy that into there as well. So if one of these two things happen, it's going to load that scene. Now that scene does not yet exist, and I'm not going to do a full scene on this, unfortunately, because I feel I've been talking long enough as it is. So I'm going to go back into Unity. I'm going to just make sure I press save on this scene, which I should have been doing all along. It's very frustrating if something crashes or you get a power cut. I'm going to create another new scene. Yep, built in. That'll do nicely. I'm just going to get rid of the main camera just like before. I'm going to add the OVR camera rig wherever I've hidden that. Prefabs, OVR camera rig. And this is where I should really start messing about with yet another canvas. Do I want to do that? No, I don't for now. So I'm going to probably... Oh, it's killing me whether I should or not. So I've got the camera rig. Okay, let's add on the canvas. UI, canvas, UI, text, UI. We're going to create a controller. I'm going to create a new script for game over. I don't care if I spelled that wrong, it's not a big deal. So game over, I've got to do the same thing again using TM Pro. Again, public TMP underscore text. Game over text. I'll just leave it at that. And I can just sort of say game over. No. Game over dot text equals, and this is where we need to write some code to decide did you lose or how did you play the game or not. So if I just sort of say if health, oh no I don't, if game controller, which of course is this code up here, dot health is less than 0, then obviously you lost. Oops. Oh, you lost. I mean, obviously we need to do something a bit nicer than this, or I can just say else. This is just a really crude way of doing it because I'm very concerned about the length of this video already, but people did say they wanted longer videos. You know, you cleared the level. I mean, obviously what we'd actually do is just load up a level 2. We wouldn't go to this point of having a game over. At this point we just say level 2, or game over would be if you lost. But either way, that should now do. So if I come back into Unity, there we go, I can now grab the text, put it onto there. The canvas is already in world space. I'm not sure if that'll look okay, whether we can get away with that or whether we have to scale it down again. I'll have a look in a moment. Yep, it is not visible in game, so we are just going to have to say canvas, screen space, turn that to world space, do exactly what we did before, which is drag the center eye anchor over, scale it right down to 0.0 to 0.01. Oh, that's gone a bit weird. Move down there a little bit. Drag that maybe over the left hand like I did earlier. Change the coordinates to 0 so it knows it's going to be zeroed in on the hand itself. That's stretched a little bit. But either way, it should kind of work. It's not great, but again, it's the polish that can take time on games. So I think that's probably enough. You know, there we go. We can see that. I think we can see that. Let's have a little look. Okay, text is massive, but we can see that it's done something. Obviously, because we've not actually played the level to get here. In fact, no, there is one more thing I need to show you, which is how to add these. So I'm going to press save. I'm going to go into file. No, yep. So scenes. Game over. Yeah, don't know why it keeps doing that. File, build settings. I'm going to add this current scene. Close. I'm going to go back to our other scene, which I believe was terribly named sample scene. I'm going to go file, build settings, add open scene. I'm going to drag these so they're in a different order. There we go. Because whichever one's at the top is the one it starts with. Come on. There we go. So it'll start with sample scene, then go to game over. So now I'm going to have to just presume it works because I don't want to play this entire level. But we'll have a quick look and see if some of the coins collect. In fact, I suppose I can let you just kill me, can't I? Okay, so let's just do a quick runner. So coins 12, 11. It's working on the trigger. Getting the coins. I'm going to let one of these kill me, I hope. So strike 1, move away, 2, move away, move away. So as the hit doesn't work. If it gets one more time, there we go. We've gone to game over. So we know that is working. It is not great, but the point is we have a functional dungeon crawler game. We have got a full level. We've got something to collect. We've got some bad guys in there that can hurt you. When it hurts you, it goes to the game over. We've got some score points. And if we think this video, yes, I'm afraid to say it has come in at 47 minutes. So 47 minutes plus the previous video, which was about 40 minutes. So an hour and a half. So if in an hour and a half we can get a game with animated models, with collectibles, with game over rules, with a UI, think what you could do over a weekend. And obviously I've been talking to camera. This is pretty much live. I only cut out a few of the bits where it was Unity was slow to compile. So think what you could do in 3 hours or 5 hours. So obviously my challenge to you is make this a good game. Go and have other things you can collect. You know, have a portal or something which will open up a new level if you touch it. So just like with the coin, you could have a portal object instead. And when instead of it being destroyed, it just makes the scene manager work instead. So rather than going, you know, if it's touching the player, then load level rather than destroy object. So have a go. Post me any links of things that you make. I think I'm going to do some more work on this, spend quite a few hours and see if I can turn something a bit prettier and a bit more playable. So that was the end of part 2, which, like I say, gives you a complete thing. If you found any part of this useful, please do like, please do subscribe, positive comment below. I think in future I will keep my videos to my shorter versions unless I get enough positive comments about this style. But with that, I shall see you in the next video.